All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi Stadium. I'm from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er Day 5 of training camp recap as 49ers were off on Sunday and back at it here on Monday. So the schedule for the week, they'll practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they'll be off again on Friday. So as far as the big story down here in Santa Clara today, it was probably the fact that Drake Jackson, who had patella tendon surgery on his knee, and Kyle Shanahan announced that it's not recovering as well as they had hoped, and he's going to miss the rest of training camp. So it's a fairly significant thing for the 49ers. They're not that deep at defensive end. They have Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, and Yetur Gross-Matos. Most teams keep 5. Robert Beal and Drake Jackson were supposed to be defensive end 4 and defensive end 5. So without even playing, today was the first day of padded practice. Without any injuries, the 49ers are already down to probably a 5th defensive end that they, Austin Bryant or something like that. And so what we saw last year in training camp, where the 49ers had to go outside their roster and bring in guys like Taco Charlton, I think you're going to see more of that again this year. And I've been predicting that for weeks, just because you look at the numbers depth-wise, and most teams keep 10 defensive linemen. And of those 10 defensive linemen, 5 of them are tackles and 5 of them are defensive ends, typically. Well, this team's got, great competition at defensive tackle for those 5 spots, right? They're going to have, of the 5 spots, let's say 4 of them are set with Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, Kevin Givens, and Jordan Elliott. So of the 5 defensive tackles, 4 of them are pretty much already known. So you have Kalia Davis, and you have Evan Anderson, and you have Shaquille Brown, and a couple other guys battling for what amounts to 1 defensive tackle spot. Well, at defensive end, you've got your top 3 guys, Bosa and Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos, and then it's down to Beal and Jackson for 4 and 5. And then as soon as you lose one guy, it's time for Austin Bryant. If you lose another guy, it might be time for guys like Alex Barrett. So they're very thin at defensive end. I would imagine they will pick up some defensive end here in the next few days to try to compensate. Now, Shanahan was asked about it, and he said, hey, look, we liked our defensive end depth coming into camp, and 5 days into camp after the first padded practice, we still like our defensive end depth, our defensive line depth. You can say that, but nobody who they have behind their top 3 guys has any experience at all. Beal has none. Drake has none. The guys behind those guys have very little as well. So it's great to be an optimist, but I'll say it right now. The 49ers will be picking up a free agent defensive end here in the next week. You can almost bank on that. The other big story of the day is that Brandon Ayuk continues his hold in. He was at practice today, off on the sidelines, not participating. He was standing next to Frank Gore and Dante Whitner, kind of chopping it up, watching practice off on the side. Still no update on Whitner's hold in, no update on Trent Williams' hold out. So those guys continue to hunt for brand new contract extensions, and so far it hasn't happened. As far as practice highlights today, there were a number of really good highlights. It seems like we say this every single year, but J.P. Mason looks great, and he continues to look great. He had 5 or 6 really impressive runs where, he's running, weaving through traffic, showing power, showing speed, showing balance. It's hard to evaluate the run game in a mock training camp situation because, oftentimes there's some linebacker or defensive lineman that would have made the play at the line of scrimmage or near the line of scrimmage, and instead the running back runs 20 yards down the field, and we're like, hey, that was a hell of a run. In reality, if that had been a live action, that guy would have been brought down for a 2-yard loss. So it's really sometimes hard to gauge the run plays. But J.P. Mason has had several nice-looking run plays thus far. I thought Renardo Green had his best practice thus far. He had a big hit on a run play, and he threw his body in there. He had another play later in practice where he had a great PBU where he knocked the ball out of the air. You can just tell he plays fast, he plays competitively, he plays for keeps. I mean, he's a great competitor. You can see it on the practice field. Cam Latu had his first sighting today. There was a really nice Cam Latu catch and run after the catch. That was great to see because we haven't seen a lot from Cam Latu. I thought maybe the highlight of the practice today was a Jalen Graham play against the run where he just popped right into the backfield, filled the lane, and would have been a great tackle for a loss. Of course, the back kept running, but Jalen Graham, I thought, had a great practice today. Mason Pline, the big rookie tight end from Furman, had a really nice catch along the sideline and run down the sideline. For 6'8", you're talking about a guy with great hands and really exciting to watch. Fred Warner had a nice interception today in practice. Picked it off. It was a deflection that he picked off the turf and ran it back. Good to see Fred looking very much in midseason form. We got our first look today at Ricky Pearsall. Pearsall, who had not played in the first 4 practices, was out there. He also was running routes. We saw him fielding punts. He looks pretty good. He's got an interesting gait. He doesn't pound the legs up and down. He almost has a gliding, effortless feel to his running style, which is going to be interesting to see how defensive players, defend him, because he is a hard guy to kind of get a gauge on how fast he's actually running. He runs 4.41 for the stopwatch. On the field, he plays even faster, and he's got a gliding style about him. Jair Brown continues to look really, really good. He had a nice hit on Deebo Samuel. Demo Lenore had an interception in practice and ran it back. Lenore is just getting better and better and better. Also, on a negative note, Spencer Burford, it looks like, is going to be out 3 to 4 weeks with a broken hand. He's yet to have surgery on the hand, but they're planning on having surgery. But it was heavily wrapped. You saw him walking around with it at practice. He's going to be out at least 3 weeks, maybe 4. And also a couple other notes. Isaac Guerrero, the rookie running back out of Louisville, has a hamstring injury, and he could be out 3 or 4 weeks, which is interesting because that could come right down to the cut down where he basically had very little preseason, very little experience. He's an interesting guy because he was hurt in practice. He cannot be put on the NFI list. And since he was already activated, he has to be put on the PUP list. So either Guerrero has to make the roster out of camp, or he has to go on season-ending IR. So that's going to be a very interesting decision. There's a very good chance that Isaac Guerrero could wind up redshirting this year just because he may not be healthy by the time they pare this roster down on the 27th of August. And if that's the case, their only options will be to waive him and lose him potentially, or to put him on season-ending IR and redshirt him for the year. So there's a very good chance that Guerrero is going to wind up redshirting. He's got a hamstring injury, and it's supposed to be fairly severe. We saw him go down a couple practices ago. Jacob Cowing, the rookie from Arizona, also dealing with a hamstring injury, but his injury is not considered as severe. He should be back sooner. And Tay Martin, the young receiver from Oak State, also battling a hamstring injury. Not believed to be severe, but he'll be back, they think, within a week to 10 days. So the big story out here today is that Drake Jackson is out for the rest of training camp with a patella tendon issue in his knee, coming off of surgery that he had on the knee. Ayuk and Trent Williams continue to their holdouts and hold-ins in Ayuk's case. And we're starting to see some guys start to really, come of age in practice. I thought this was the best practice I had seen from Renardo Green. I thought this was the best practice I had seen from Cam Latu, from Jalen Graham, from Mason Pline. So a lot of good stuff out on the practice field for sure. Niners are back out on the practice field tomorrow. We'll be out here breaking it all down. Of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out there in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles along the Monterey Peninsula. For all your sports cards and collectible needs, check out Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. Anthony Catania, my good friend down there, the owner of Sports Cards, of Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles in Pacific Grove, California. Proud sponsor of The Krug Show. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.